I didn't retire early because I had everything figured out. I retired because I couldn't keep doing what I was doing. And the moment that realization hit me, it wasn't a meltdown, it was actually pretty quiet, almost calm. These are the nudges that let me know it was time to retire early and leave the 9-to-5 world forever. So to back up for a second, I worked in a very public job in politics and government. Every decision I made was scrutinized by the media, by Congress, and by the people we served. It was a job where someone always wanted something right now, if not yesterday. And to be honest, because I had worked in that space for 15 years, I got used to how hectic it was, and that just seemed normal to me. And when that job ended in January 2025, I actually went through the motions to find a new one. However, I was entering into a labor market that was going downhill really fast. White collar layoffs, hiring freezes, and there just weren't that many job opportunities available, which at the time felt like terrible timing. I applied to a few, I even got one interview, but honestly, I was dialing it in. My applications were generic, and in that interview, I was just going through the motions. I wasn't afraid of not working. Subconsciously, I was afraid of going back to that kind of hectic life. And I think a lot of people in their 40s and 50s get to this point where continuing just feels heavier than stopping. And one day I told my boyfriend I was dreading putting in job applications, and he looked at me and said, you can just stop. You're making enough money outside of work that you really never have to go back. And the thing is, because I had been so consumed by my career, I hadn't even stopped to look up to see how close I was to achieving my goal of being able to retire with passive, or as some people like to point out, semi-passive income. And it was in that moment that I first started to believe that I could leave. The second nudge happened a few days later. We went out to breakfast with a real estate investor friend of ours who was buying a new mixed-use property that combines residential and commercial spaces. And he wanted us to partner with him to rent the residential spaces and turn them into short-term rentals. And I quickly realized that taking on these new units would get me close to replacing my paycheck. And since I already had the systems to run a short-term rental business, I had the capacity to take these new units on. So I said yes. By April, we were fixing up the first unit that we launched in June, and then in August, fixed up another unit that we launched in September. And this was a moment where preparation met luck. Here's the part that most people who want to retire early but can't often miss. I could walk away because my life was already designed to not require a big income. I live in one side of a duplex and rent out the other. And that income covers my mortgage as well as a good chunk of my living costs. So my home is free. I paid off my car in 2016. I take good care of it. And I live in a place where I don't have to drive very much. So the money that I make from all of my rental properties covers the rest of my bills. I even still have money to set aside to make more investments. And yes, we still do date night once a week, usually around $100, but we walk and it's something that we really enjoy. So when the job ended and the labor market tanked, I didn't have to panic because my life was already built for me to have peace. There was no epiphany, no big leap. It was just noticing that a chapter was over and just letting it close. If you're in your 40s or 50s and you can feel that quiet truth building, like you're holding your breath just to get through the day, maybe your nudge won't be dramatic either. And maybe you just let yourself exhale. Future Laura here, and I'm editing. Wanted to add this quick point. When all of the dust finally settled and I wasn't applying for jobs and updating my resume, I had this epiphany that all of that time that I was spending trying to get back into the working grind, I now had to myself. And it was in the middle of the day. I didn't have to negotiate with anyone. I didn't have to tell anyone where I was going to be or ask anyone's permission. And so the first thing that I did was signed up for a ceramics class. I hadn't taken ceramics since high school, and it happened in the middle of the day, which was so awesome. I got to walk to class. For those 2 hours during the week, I could just zone in on trying to make a perfect cylinder. And it was honestly the best kind of therapy that I could have hoped for, because nothing else could occupy my mind if I was going to get that little bowl exactly right. And it was in that moment that I just felt so rich because I had time, which is just what so many people who want to retire early are out to reclaim for themselves. Around the same time, I started using a digital planner that I had downloaded from Etsy. And this did two things for me. The first, It gave me space to plan my days so that I could build in some structure. What I didn't want to have happen was just kind of hang out all day and at the end of it have my boyfriend come home from work and ask me what I did, and I wouldn't have anything to show for it. I still wanted to be productive, just in ways that were meaningful to me in my new era of life. And that planner also came with a journal. And for the first time in a really long time, I was able to just sit with my thoughts and reflect and even set new goals. And it was these two things that really solidified it for me. This new era of life felt so good that there was no way I was going back to a 9-to-5. So if life is giving you a nudge, you may just want to look into the possibility of retiring early if your finances and your cost of living are in order. My channel is just starting, so please hit like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.